Hello, friends. A very warm welcome to another episode of the Icons of Creativity. Today, we have none other than the Indian classical dancer Dr. Sonal Mansingh with us. Dr. Sonal Mansingh was nominated by President of India to Rajya Sabha in July 2018 in recognition of her lifelong dedication and service to India's arts. She is the recipient of Padma Vibhushan in 2003 and Padma Bhushan in 1992. Prime Minister of India Shri Narendra Modi nominated her as a Navratna for Swachh Bharat, the Clean India mission. Her unique contribution has been her lifelong work using her knowledge to address socio-cultural issues through the chosen medium of dance as a soloist, a teacher, choreographer and motivational speaker. As the founder president of Sri Kamakhya Kalapeeth, the Center for Indian Classical Dancers, she has trained several hundred talented students who are carrying the message of Indian culture globally. She teaches the art as holistic concept combining music, yoga, Sanskrit and cultural traditions of India. Dr. Sonal Mansingh, what an honor to be in conversation with you. Let me start by asking you this one question, that you belong to a family of illustrious people, like your grandfather being a governor and a family of freedom fighters. You've been dancing since a very young age, and even though your family has contributed so much to the freedom of our country, when it comes to your own freedom of choice of your career, you had to run away from home. Tell us a little more about this. Is this a problem that we all face in our society?
That's a very good question, Lipika. And first of all, let me thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you and for your viewers. Freedom of choice in life is a huge thing. And at what time it knocks at your door, that's what a lot of people don't recognize. Fighting for the freedom of the country is one thing, and trying to understand or adjust to the choice made by youngsters in the family is another thing. Third thing is the social conditions of that time. We are talking in 2020 about 1963, and the art history of India, which is so closely linked with the political history of India, because our dances were danced in temples and in the courts and for the public, utsavas, festivals. That's checkered history. And what happened to it in north, in south, in east and west is, when we speak of India, it's not one entity. At one point, it's one entity. At another level, there are so many different areas that have gone through different historical events. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that the freedom given to me, my elder sister, was natural. I mean, we went to co-education schools, we went to co-education colleges. There was never a question of girls' school, convent school, or pulling us back from anything. I was sent away to Girl Guide camps, for a month at a time when I was still at school. So that kind of freedom was fine. But then to want to only dance after BA, that was not the thing done those days. It was, you do this and also dance. There was no hesitation that dance, but not only dance. So only and also are two different dimensions, two different aspects. And the flame of my passion only dictated that no, it has to be only dance. I just love dance. I don't want to do anything else.
So you identified your passion so early in life.
I'm lucky.
That defined your purpose, yes. But a lot of us, we don't even know what our passion is. How do we identify it? How do we create that purpose in our life, which is so important, which I feel in your case it just drives you so beautifully. How do we identify that passion?
Oh dear, that's again, Deepika, I think you are bringing such life informative questions. Now, this is something that I've been trying to explain. It's very difficult to explain, but in simple words. Yesterday, I was speaking for some other dancers group. I said, more and more I see that people, because of this.
Okay, the phone, the technology, okay.
Yeah, and this is your constant companion.
Yes.
Instead of you being your own constant companion, which means that you are aware, you are conscious of your thoughts, you are aware and you know what you want. All these things have become now secondary because WhatsApp tells you so much, social media dictates to you, YouTube tells you how you should dance. Now, in that case, where do you have time or even intent to sit quietly, to think, meditate? I'm not saying meditate, even that's good. But meditate, think deeply, and listen to the guts, listen to your inner voice. For that, you need silence. Where is the silence?
Okay, so do you think this pandemic or the crisis that has happened is allowing us that time to meditate or have that silence or reflect? Because it's about looking at the glass half full or half empty. There are those in this crisis situation are completely breaking down, and then there are those who are coming up with a new life or a new career. Maybe is that what you're trying to say about the silence?
Yeah, I mean, pandemic, those 2 months of total lockdown would have been the ideal time. So what you're saying, that some people have charted out new life, so to speak. So they listened to their voice, they were with themselves. And maybe those who could not, who are still fluffing around, they were just all the time on social media or laptop or WhatsApp or whatever. So, it depends, I think, on the seriousness with which you look at yourself.
Okay, so first, of course, one needs to identify what is one passionate about. Like, for instance, in your life, you identified it's dance, and then other things originated from there. But do you think it's okay to try out different things and then be able to?
Why not? I mean, I'm not dancing 24 hours, Deepika, am I? I mean, I learned music, I learned Bengali, Sanskrit, painting, music, vocal music for so long that I make my own music since many years.
How wonderful.
I did German, I love picnic, I love traveling, I love museums, I love friends, I love wit and humor. So it's, it's the wrong idea that, oh my God, no, how can I do this? Yeah, it's a dance which is all encompassing, which is life nurturing.
Okay. And then the other things that you learn along with it helps you grow in what you are focusing on?
Exactly.
How beautifully put. This is where I want to ask you, you're a linguist. 9 languages is not, you know.
Why not?
So many languages. How does it help in our understanding the culture? Do you think it helps us better?
I think a lot of people have now begun to understand, I hope, that first, if you have no respect or love for your mother tongue, then other things don't follow. Mother tongue, Matrubhasha.
Okay.
I'm sure you are aware, you hear, you see a lot of young people, millennials and even older generations. It's fashionable to inject English, that too not elegant English, just
Colloquial.
yeah, Kaopio, Khaopio, that kind. And at the disadvantage of their own DNA, their own genes, which are in our mother tongue. So mother tongue is the first key. Language is the key, Lipika, to open many doors in life, to understand who you are, your identity, why you are, what about all this. It's the key. Second thing is that Sanskrit in our country, whether you like it or not, is the great mother of our Indian languages. Even Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Bengali, Oriya, Gujarati, Marathi, what not. Tamil people might balk at me, say, no. Yeah, but Tamil words, there are so many Apabhransh Sanskrit words. We cannot deny it. Why deny? I think the greatness of Indian tradition, culture has been that it has constantly enriched itself by accepting and absorbing influences. We never say no. We say, okay, come. We are big enough to have you also. So language, as I was telling you, is the key to open doors, to understand, and those people who cannot speak any one language even clearly, I feel very sorry for them.
I think we need to keep this point very, very seriously in our minds. I hope the audience which is listening should actually sincerely start learning at least that one language that you're talking
Lipika,
about.
My mother tongue is Gujarati, okay? I'm a Gujarati, my mother tongue is Gujarati. My father, everyone Gujarati. We were sent to Gujarati medium school, thank the Lord, in Bombay, not convent school. So I passed my matriculation in 1959 in Gujarati. And the only other three papers, one was English, one was Hindi, one was Sanskrit. The arithmetic, algebra, geography, history, all was in Gujarati. Then I straight went to Elphinstone College, then one of the three elitist colleges of India. And I had to pick up some English. So my grandfather gave me Times of India and a pocket dictionary. He said, underline, go to dictionary. If you still don't understand, ask me. That's how I started, really understanding English. And I am very particular, Lipika, if you see, about Uchcharan, pronunciation, diction, clarity. So then I took German for my BA. And German is also so perfect, it's like Sanskrit.
Wow, beautiful.
तो मैं कह रही थी कि I still speak, write, dream in my Matrubhasha. My writing is like little pearls, so beautiful in Hindi, Sanskrit, Gujarati, English, all. Now people can't write today because they are writing
on the phone.
On this. What is this? Are we not thinking about it? Where are we? You can't use your fingers to write properly. And if this falls and is broken, you can't calculate, because for every simple calculation, 69 plus 15, how much they pick up?
Absolutely.
If you say, see, you have to do A this, B this, they pick up, note. Oh my God. So your computer mind is withering away at one level. Everything is here. Your handwriting is gone. Third, you don't know any language properly. You cannot speak properly in English. One paragraph you cannot write. You cannot speak your mother tongue. You cannot speak your national language, Hindi. So what can you speak, what can you write, and what can you do? Now language gives you literature, the richness of literature. If you want to read even simple novel, you have to know the language.
Absolutely.
The turn, the phrasing, the kahavat, muhavre, what you call them, the proverbs, the way they use the words, the wit and humor. How will you understand that?
So tell me, what is the way forward? How do we start appreciating culture, especially amongst the millennials? Like आप कह रहे हैं, writing itself is an art. your form of, every form of dancing, you know, so many forms, you know, the way you move your fingers, every movement speaks, you know, and conveys a message.
Body, every limb has a purpose, has a function. The eyes convey so much. My Bharatanatyam guru used to say, I don't want to see dead fish eyes. Have you seen the eyes of dead fish?
Okay.
So, a lot of, they look at you like that. More and more they use this and the laptop, their eyes are becoming dead.
Dead fish.
Dead. There is no expression. So, when you look at someone, there is no look. They are just, what's the difference between that buffalo and you, he would say. Now, this kind of a thing you don't hear from any teacher today, because the students say, what do you mean by that? Yeah, but I tell my students, for generation of students I've been telling them, eyes are given to see, to recognize, to register. Ears are given to hear wonderful things. Nose is given to breathe, and you must know where the breath is going or not. You're not aware of your breath ever. Your mouth talks and incessantly, a verbal diarrhea. Yeah, like, you know, yeah, you know, you know, like, what? What have you said?
My God, you've captured it so beautifully. And
No, but
it is
Lipika, look,
actually the way things are.
my students tell me now that, Millie, Guruji, you know all that. I said, Guruji is not coming from the cave. Guruji is living right now, and I'm observing.
My goodness. This is where I want to ask you, you know, you have led a fearless life. I could easily call you a person who's completely fearless, from the choice of your career to choice of your partners to what you have done with your current career, political career. How important is that fearlessness that has to be instilled to live a strong life?
Conviction. You have to have convictions in life, and you have to have the courage to carry through that conviction.
How does it come? Does one have to train one's mind for it? Or you think your classical training has helped you to create that sense of conviction? Because everybody seems to be a confused lot today, and even more confused now with the pandemic, with people not knowing which directions to take. What do you think we should be doing?
I can't, you know, like that, but I'm sure that the classical training, which trains the body to be strong, the body cannot be strong without the discipline of the mind, which tells the body, sweat it out, you have to get this posture right, you have to get this sequence right, you know. So it's a body mind
Discipline
thing,
and
and respect for discipline. Respect. Where is the respect today? You know, it's okay to break conventions, it's okay to have freedom of speech, freedom of action. I keep repeating that in India, Deepika, and it's a good opportune moment for me to share this, that India has always held the freedom of thought, action and expression. For example, if Valmiki wrote Ramayana, do we know how many thousands of Ramayans are there after Valmiki? If there is a Rag Yaman, okay, which every student of Hindustani music has to learn. Bade Ghulam Ali Khan sang it 1,000 times, Kishori Amonkar, Pandit Omkarnath Thakur, Bhimsen Joshi, whoever, even today is being sung and played on sarod and sitar and flute and Rag Yaman. Can anybody tell you or tell them that these are the 7 notes, ascending and descending? The Madhyam and the Nishad are Tivra, and you cannot create anything, you have to sing it this way only. No. There are thousands of interpretations of Rag Yaman. There are million interpretations of Mahabharata, of Kabir, of Rabindranath. Now Rabindranath Tagore, for example, he wrote the melody for each of his poems, Gana. Those were sort of under Talebandi, those were locked up for 50 years till 50 years after his death. And I used to laugh and say, what is this? Why? Valmiki never put a tala on anything. Tulsidas never put a tala. Dikshita never put a tala. Our dance compositions, I teach my students, they can change it. I teach them the choreography, as I learned from my guru. My gurus never told me that, hello, don't you dare. They said, express yourself, create. This is the basis. So where we talk about, India has become very this, India has become very that, I simply want to tell them, where are you guys, yaar? Come on. What do you know about India? It's just imported ideas and you are looking at India with, I don't know what kind of tinted glasses.
Absolutely.
Don't tell me, don't talk rubbish.
Even your performance titled Draupadi has such a strong message. How does a millennial today interpret that message? How do you give them the message of Draupadi?
Millennials have to understand that all over the world, all around the world, there are millions and billions of Draupadis. Woman has always been used, overused, misused, misinterpreted. Why? To settle family scores, to settle scores for land, for family, for feuds, lust, torture, rape. Woman is game. Woman is easy game. So it is the message that respect woman, because what happens now that you mentioned Draupadi, first of all, nobody talks about the meaning of these names. Lipika, what does your name mean? It's a beautiful name. Lipi is script, and Lipika is a beautiful flowing script. Sonal is golden. Now, unless we understand that names always have vibrations, they carry huge meaning, and that's why beautiful names, each time you call that name, the good vibrations emanate. Draupadi, for example, her father is King Drupad. So again, if you don't know Hindi or Sanskrit, you don't understand. Dhru or Druma means trees. In simple words, lush vegetated land, lushly vegetated land. Pada, Janapada. In old times, the republics were called Janapadas. Lichavi Janapada. India is a Janapada.
Okay.
So Drupada is the king of a lushly forested, vegetated kingdom, and the daughter therefore is called Draupadi, the daughter of Drupad, and therefore we can look upon her, understand her as Prakriti, nature. Now when this pandemic is happening, we are talking about how the imbalances, ecological imbalances have happened. And so we are suffering. Hyderabad is inundated. You've seen pictures of Hyderabad?
Yes.
And it's happening in India, it's happening in China, it's happening in Japan, it's happening in Brazil, it's happening in America. There are forest fires, there are landslides, all kinds of things. Why? Because you insulted nature, you took nature for granted, and you did everything that should not have been done.
Very true, Michael.
So Draupadi is the symbol also of that when you insult woman, you are insulting and imbalancing the natural cosmic laws. Woman is the creator. Woman's womb carries the child, a boy or a girl, doesn't matter. Woman is the mother. Woman carries forward the cosmic law and the creation. You insult her, then be prepared for results.
How Beautifully translated.
Yeah.
Sonalji, I'm getting goosebumps just listening to you, and I really mean it. But this is so beautiful, so thoughtful. And
No, but it's there. That's what Lipika, the whole process. The process of understanding what you are going to do, why you want to do it, what is in it that you want to convey, what is your interpretation, your thinking, your observations. All this comes together, then only something can happen.
so true.
Not otherwise.
So true.
Otherwise what? You are parroting everyone and
Yes.
you want to look beautiful and yeah, and put so many things in your YouTube channel and how many thumbs up and how many thumbs down. How does it matter?
One has to understand the deeper meaning of,
Otherwise, what do you convey?
yes, yes, there has to be a reason and a purpose, I guess. So everything,
Everything, yeah, reason, logic to it, your interpretation and how you can convey. See, conveying, even if you understand, then the bridge has to be built. For that, you need to understand the technique. If you understand all that, but you have no technique to convey, then also it's not. You have technique, but you have no understanding. Then, so it is not as easy as people think it is. You go to reality show and earn some check and get your little 2.5, 3 minutes in the sun. That's so.
yes, that's
Yeah,
all
okay,
superficial.
Okay, all right.
Wonderful. Deviating a little bit, you went through a very bad accident at the point of time in your career
Yeah.
when you were actually doing phenomenally well with your dance career. And then everything came down and it was a near fatal accident. You were in a different state of both mind and body. You got out of it, and how? Tell us more, because I'm sure a lot of people who've gone through such issues and problems in their life probably don't know how to handle it the way you've handled it.
What is there to handle? I was also, Lipika, broken back, the 12th vertebra, powdered, is still not there. There's a little natural bone bridge that grew between 11th and 13th vertebra. And the 4 ribs smashed and collarbones are still, there is no shape.
Oh my goodness.
Plus other injuries. But the point is that I call myself Dvija. Dvija in Sanskrit means twice born. So all those people who go through the Upanayana Samskar. Now your millennials should pick up a dictionary and
And
read
say,
what is
okay.
Upanayana Samskar. And that is very important in life, even when you start school in kindergarten. That's a new birth. But when you do it with proper rituals, Shuddhi. So anyway, I said that's I'm a Dvija because I'm twice born. I was almost at the door and I've come back. And I've come back with the understanding of my mission. There is a mission given to me, like you are given a mission, he's given a mission, we all have been given missions, as you already asked. But people do not understand that mission. That mission became absolutely clear to me. And also the understanding, you are here literally like a Buddha, like a bubble.
Bubble. Okay.
You are here, gone now. Who are you? Who are you? You may be whatever. Who cares? Do you know you are going to be there till this evening or tomorrow morning? Do you know? Can you guarantee? I can't guarantee. So that it awakened, I think it just shook me to my core. And from then on, the kind of humility, gratitude became a constant.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you think that living in gratitude is a very important key for us to be able
I
to
think so.
strengthen ourselves,
I
and
think so. I think so.
even in this situation you think being grateful
Lipika,
almost every day will
gratitude-
make a difference?
Gratitude is a very big word, beautiful word. We've forgotten to be grateful. We are now used to taking for granted everything. Your TV has to give you good entertainment. Your refrigerator has to be filled with food that you like and the drinks. You have, I mean, everything is there. If it's not there, you get angry. You get irritated. Why? It's my right. Gratitude is something that you say, thank you. Thank you. I'm very grateful. I deserve it or I don't deserve it, I don't know. But it's there for me. I'm grateful. This gratitude to nature, gratitude to the sky, gratitude to air. Are we thanking the air which we breathe? We take it for granted. And in 1 second when you stopped breath, or you are in a little room locked up for whatever reason and you are dying for air. Hawa nahi hai. Then what happens? So I'm saying sun is there. Our Surya Gayatri is a way of praying and saying thank you. And please shine in my intellect also. So where is that gratitude, Lipika? And if we learn to live in gratitude, I think the inner doors open, outer doors open.
How beautiful.
It's natural.
I have forgotten what to ask you next because you are speaking so beautifully well. You know, it's touching a chord in my heart so beautifully well because you're so right. We just take things for granted. Everything from the air to the water we drink to the food we eat, not even realizing or batting an eyelid to think what it has taken for us to be able to enjoy it, to celebrate it, to cherish it.
Got it.
You know, I saw a beautiful program of yours on a TEDx Talks where you were talking about how we first need to envisage, then we evoke, and then all the rasas that we get, we evoke, we feel enlightened, and that's only when we are able to enjoy it, the ananda that comes out of the situation. So please tell us a little more about it.
I think, Lipika, when I have spoken about Draupadi, for example, all these are covered. How? That when I was thinking about Draupadi, I was envisaging her personality, her being. And then I engaged myself with her. And then her energy I invoke. Her energies I have invoked. So if you go to my YouTube channel and see the Mahabharat Kalayatra, 11th October, and part of that my Draupadi solo dance theatre production is there. And people are still saying that even in that little thing, you know, because somebody's watching on laptop, somebody on mobile, they said we had tears. So Ananda is the final outcome, which is the goal, ideal state that rasa can evoke. But for the rasa to evoke, to be evoked into Ananda and transferred into Ananda, the performer, the artist, has to, what shall I say, go deep into that, whatever she is performing.
The character?
No, whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay.
It can be abstract dance,
Okay.
it can be just abhinaya, it can just be a poem. I can sit and do a poem in a way that there is Ananda. Ananda is what? Bliss. That that is Ananda. That is the what we call aesthetic delight. When I watched Michael Jackson's, the documentary on Michael Jackson's rehearsals, that's it, or this is it. I think this is it, that's the title. Tears ran down. I still carry it within me. Please see that. And when he sings that earth song, exact situations like today, Brazil, Amazon, jungle rainforests are burning. In America, the west coast is burning. In Australia, the bushfires are burning. Then the pandemic and the floods are here, floods are there. He sings, go and watch it. So that is Ananda. It didn't have to be classical Bharatanatyam, it didn't have to be anything. So again, Lipika is nothing to do with gestures. They all should coalesce into one which is infused with your being. And that evokes rasa, which gives up. It's very simple. You get into it, whatever you're doing. That's what I tell my students also. Kuch bhi kar liya, aisa kar diya bhai. So even putting your shoes in order, when you enter a temple, when you enter a room, when you enter a home, when you enter my institution, you look, they just, hi. So visual, in every kriya, in every act, if you are not involved and if you do not respect that act, what is it?
So, when I see your performances, unlike a lot of other classical dance performances where I have always felt, and a lot of other people like me have felt, that you have to be a connoisseur to be able to appreciate it. But in your case, how do you manage to touch the soul of the audience without even the audience understanding too much of the intricate nuances of what you're doing?
Really?
Yes.
I'm happy to hear that.
I'm telling you, there are audiences crying at the end of every performance that you do.
Out of joy, I hope.
Yes, of course. Out of awe. For people like me, it's out of awe, out of sheer, awe of how everything comes together. How do you manage to do this, and how important is that for any field of creativity or dance or music or anything for the performer?
Lipika, you go on and on about performer, and I say that even your camera people are performers. You are a performer. I just say that everything should come together, should be done with consciousness, should be done with alacrity, with alertness. Whether you are performing, whether you are cooking, whether you are serving, whether you are driving. I drive my own car. When I'm driving, I'm with the car. Car and I have become one. And I still have time to look at the trees. I'm pointing out, look at that cassia, it's in full bloom, that jacaranda. Look at the gulmohar. How beautiful, look at the green of that. It's not only about performance, dancer and all. Everything comes together in life, everyday life. If you know how to live with consciousness, awareness. That awareness is a big word.
Okay.
And most of the time, as I told you, people are not even aware कहाँ जा रहे हैं, कैसे बैठे हैं, कैसे उठते हैं, कैसे बात कर रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं, खा रहे हैं. See, watch them.
Yes, so true. और आजकल तो इवन मोर, क्योंकि घर से बाहर नहीं जा रहे हैं, कभी भी उठ रहे हैं, कभी भी खा रहे हैं, कभी भी सो रहे हैं. Where is that discipline, and how important is that?
We've talked about it, and
Yes.
it's quite a lot.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, especially now, this is for my audience which is coming from a creative background. It could be art, dance, theatre, anything. One important thing that comes out whenever anybody is talking to you and when I'm talking to you is that one does not just need to learn the art. Practice and discipline. These are the two words constantly coming into my head. And respect. Oh yes, the third. How important is that practice, and that to focus practice without distractions? Especially in this world of technology today.
Yeah, I don't know why we are so taken up with technology. Technology की अपनी जगह है, it has its own place. I mean, you wouldn't go around with a patila from your kitchen on your head and say, because I have cooked in that, I'm eating from okay, it's there. Technology is there to help you. You are the master. Okay. You are the master. And you can't allow this little telephone to sit on your head and dictate to you. But that's what's happening.
We've become slaves, I guess. It should be the other way around.
Every, you know,
We,
something, Are, is Prime Minister calling you? You know, come on. So, I think we become like monkeys. You must have seen a lot of monkeys here. when you
yes,
enter.
yes.
Yeah. So, what is the difference between monkey and us? What's the difference? Can people sit quietly, listen, think, read, look? Can
Tell me about the monkey story in your early days when you were going to do your first performance. And that's a very interesting story. I'm sure a lot of people would love
When
to
I
know.
look at monkeys, I say, my guru told me to show the difference between you and me. So I'm still at it.
Okay, but tell us what happened exactly.
Well, performing, going for the Arangetram, the maiden recital, and 17. Today's girls of 7 know much more than I knew at 17. I didn't know how babies were
Oh,
created.
okay.
That bad.
Okay.
That bad. Very innocent because
Okay.
totally, you know, the Gujarati family, freedom fighters,
Okay.
world leaders coming home and all that. All
Okay.
That. So, Naika, Shrungar, love. I'm so much in love with you, Shiva. Come and embrace me. Come and, you know, take what udhar karo from the ocean of separation. My hand gestures, mudras perfect. My tal, rhythm, everything perfect. My body postures, everything perfect. But here, zero. It's the same. He got so fed up. So, okay, Bangalore one afternoon. That was what, in June 1961.
And you were 17.
And yeah, I'm running 77 now.
Okay, wow.
So, I later asked him, I said, sir, were you going to hit me? He said, yes. He had that, you know, Tatakali in hand with which
Oh, okay.
Bharatanatyam gurus and was getting very, Sonia! Get fish eyes! Sonia! Sir, I'm trying. And then he heard that sound and he went to the window and said, come here. What's that? I said, monkeys are dancing. Two little monkeys on bicycle. Those, even in Delhi, they used to come
Yes,
few
to
years
performances, yes.
ago. Yeah. Madari, Dubudi. So he just pointed that Tatakari. He said, show me the difference between monkey and you. That fixed me forever.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
The monkeys are here, all my gurus are here.
Okay, wonderful. So, we did a little survey and there were some audience questions that I would like to ask you.
Sure.
One is, of course, Vivek Rana has asked this question. Does one have to be a connoisseur of culture to appreciate it?
Culture is a very big word. So again, I would say connoisseur of what? Connoisseur of music, connoisseur. You have to be connoisseur of life, and you want to love life, and you want to enjoy what you are watching, whether you understand or not. And if you like it, you will definitely want to know more about it. So that's the way you go.
Okay, wonderful. And Jasmine Gonzalez, she's asking that classical Indian dance is always associated with the elite. Why so?
No, I think she has a wrong impression.
Okay. You think the common man actually should and appreciate it and learn it? And
No. There's should and could and nothing of that sort. Everybody is learning it, right? In the villages and right from families, in towns and mufassili areas, everywhere people are learning it and have been learning it.
okay, all right.
She just has to go around and see.
Okay, wonderful. Can, especially in the times of technology, can Indian classical dances like Bharatnatyam, Kathak, etc. be learnt virtually through online classes? Samvik Kapoor is asking.
Ayyo Bhagwati, I'm not giving online classes. I don't think I can.
Is it possible
No,
to
people
learn?
people are doing it, but then the limitations are there.
Can it be taught in the purest the form?
No. I said no because Lipika, especially dance or music, are immediate. It needs immediacy. You are making a wrong gesture. By the time I tell you, and you don't understand, it's the right is left and left is right, and there's a delay, and they say, okay. No, it's not possible for me, and I don't think it's possible to really get it. But I say, If some gurus are doing it, some teachers are doing it, good. Let it go on.
Okay. So, okay.
How can you be strict online?
Exactly.
You can't go and just here my person here, Mr. Balan, he's a yoga instructor. Poor guy, he's giving online lessons and he by the time it's evening,
It is very frustrating, I'm quite sure. I tried learning a bit of yoga once and I gave it up. I said no, समझ ही नहीं आ रहा, उल्टा उल्टा दिख रहा है पहले तो.
Yeah.
That
तो
is the
the
worst
dance का
part.
आप सोच लीजिए कैसे होगा.
Oh my goodness, I completely understand that. So Varun Mandal, he's saying, I am an instructor for salsa, Latin dance form, and I find that it is gaining immense popularity amongst the young dance enthusiasts in India. I am 35 years old. Can I learn an Indian classical dance form at this age and also teach it?
My God, who's this very ambitious person?
Yes.
First to learn करो ना, teach की बाद में करो.
But you think a salsa dancer?
Anyone, Lipika,
Okay.
anyone. First of all, if you have that feeling, urge to learn, you can learn anything at any age.
Okay.
Rukmini Devi started learning when she was 38 or 28 or 38 or whatever.
Okay.
People have started learning swimming, music, sitar, dance at any age.
Okay. So age is not the factor.
Age is not
You can
the
learn at
part.
any age, and it's not okay. Because classical dances somehow, for one, to my mind, I feel needs a lot more practice, understanding, focus.
Yeah, Lipika, again there are two things in classical, Shastriya. I talk of Bharatanatyam and Odissi, for example, that I know. There is the technical part, the nritta, where the perfection of body postures, the jump, what we call what shall I call it? Not abstract dance, but that dance which creates designs in space. There's other dance, Abhinaya, which conveys your sentiments, moods, characters, stories. So according to the age, if you are 38 or whatever you are, 40 or whatever, you need not go thumping around. You learn the postures, you learn the mudras, and you request the teacher to teach you the Abhinaya, the beautiful padams, the beautiful shlokas, the beautiful kirtanas.
Which actually adds so much more to dimension to the performance.
Performance or your life even.
Life, yes. Yeah. Okay, that's a beautiful message. I hope, Varun Mandal, I hope you know now how well you should learn and what parts of the performances that you should learn. Arunav Saha says, dance and music are intangible mediums of entertainment where unlike sports or films that can be counted in numbers, how do you measure performances like dance and music?
What is there to measure? I don't understand.
In terms, I think he's probably asking, how do you measure how successful you are? Like if you're a sportsman,
why
you can
should
measure.
you measure? That is the whole difference. That is the difference between sports or whatever, acrobatics and dance. There's nothing to measure. The measure is yourself, your audiences. How many hearts you've won, not how many gold medals you got and how many wickets you've taken and how many runs you've made and how many overbounds. My overbound goes to the hearts. As you say, audience is in tears, audience is in awe. And then, today they have earned gold medals, they have forgotten. Artists, we go on and on and on. I think we'll float away on a cloud.
So beautifully put.
Never die.
That is Dr. Sonal Mansingh. Truly won several hearts, and today too I'm sure she has, just by sharing her thoughts and her ideas, won many more. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. I hope I've not disappointed your audience because I'm not very conventional, as you can see. I am myself and I love to laugh.
And that is so infectious. I hope we all learn this from you, because you live such a beautiful life where you are doing so much, touching lives of people. Now with your political career even more, at the same time you are reaching out and inspiring us, laughing and making it all seem so simple.
Pleasure to meet you, Deepika. Pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
God bless.
Thank you so much. What an amazing conversation with Dr. Sonal Mansingh, a lady who has lived on her own terms, inspired many across the globe, and today shared her ideas about life in general. A big thank you to you, ma'am, and of course, a very big thank you to this lovely audience who has joined in today. Also, a big thank you to Oriental Tiles for making this platform possible. I look forward to many more conversations like this with many more icons of creativity. I'm sure you too are looking forward to the same. So stay tuned and we will come back to you very soon with the next episode of the Icons of Creativity. Thank you.